Hi folks, welcome to the I Write Radio podcast videocast. Sunday the 14th of June. My wife's birthday is on the 15th, by the way. Just
And my father would have been 105, I think, yesterday. Saturday. Friday.
So he had you when he was 16.
All right, 125.
Well, we're going to talk about the economy because we have mentioned it in past shows, but we'll have a dig at that. And we cannot ignore the anti-anti-fascist rallies in London.
I think the term is counter.
Well, no, I can't remember what paper it was, but they actually called it an anti-anti-fascist rally.
Oh, well.
So if you're against people who are against fascists, what does that make you?
Makes you a fascist.
Kind of talk about stretching the truth. Will we go with that first then, lads? Were we impressed with the British Army modelling of the attack on the police?
I don't know. Off you go, Jimmy. I could.
I was just thinking there was an awful lot of berries with regimental badges on them.
Yeah, well, you've got to imagine that certain ex-members of Her Majesty's Armed Forces who are probably now serving in the TA have ended their careers by getting their pictures taken there. I saw one boy in the full Army Air Corps regalia, which is besmirching the Army Air Corps. Some rotten to turn up at something like that. But I think most of it was just, certainly a lot of the violence was caused by the Football Lads Alliance, who were whipped up by Tommy Robinson and the EDL crew. Interesting to note that groups like the FLA and ADL haven't got a mention, really, on the BBC. They've just said that it was, shall we say, far-right protesters, as they've liked to lump them all together. But certainly, with the tattoos and the inability to spell on their own placards, you kind of know who these people are, what they've been involved in before. And to be honest, I didn't think the police kicked them hard enough. They should have kicked them a heck of a lot harder when they started throwing missiles and that.
Well, I mean, I felt quite sorry. I don't know if you saw the banner, the All Lives Matter banner. There was a group of guys there who were desperately trying to say, look, we're here so that this statue of Churchill, who we admire, doesn't get besmirched. That's why we're here. You know, we're not any of this lot. And of course, they got totally drowned out by what looked like the majority, I have to say, of lunatics who were just there for a rumble. I mean, any excuse would have done for them, I think.
I think, you know, I did actually see the Tommy Robinson video rant earlier in the week that whipped up all these guys to turn up. And while probably rebroadcasting it before yesterday would have been a bad idea, wouldn't have been a bad idea if you were a serious broadcaster to show it now and to link the two together. Here's the guy whipping up the nasties, and here's the nasties, what they did. We could do that now, but will anybody?
They definitely seem to have taken the stance that, oh, this is just some people who got upset because they feel passionately about it. It was a mob. Still about their nut, looking for trouble. I mean, I doubt any one of them understands politics. I mean, they're just a bunch of folks looking for a fight.
I think the current phrase is super gammon.
Aye.
I wouldn't even insult gammons.
They're missing their weekly or fortnightly ruck at the football, so they thought they'd come out and have a ruck in the streets of London.
That's what it looked like to me. I mean, I saw Blair McDougall was getting all upset because some SNP guy had said, the fringe, the right-wing fringe of Better Together. Well, I'm sorry, Blair. I was in Leith Walk after the Orange Watch, and there was plenty of guys looking to knock my teeth in the back of my head just because there was a yes badge on my lapel. That element is there. And maybe the lesson you should learn is that the crazy element is not always something you can do about it.
Well, as I say, the visuals of people bedecked with swastika tattoos claiming to protect the Churchill statue, it's laughable, but that's what these people are. Absolute clowns.
Do they even understand what Churchill represents? I mean, there's a huge swathe of the British public who think Churchill has the sun rammed up his arse. I mean, the fact that he has a history that, well, shall we say, bruises his reputation as the savior of the free world, doesn't enter into it.
I think we should be careful here that we don't, just because the people turned up at yesterday's in Whitehall yesterday to protect Churchill's statue and a bunch of thick idiots. We shouldn't pretend that there isn't a serious right wing in this country. That is dangerous.
Well, what we saw yesterday was the thick right wing. The guys that are, as you say, really dangerous are never going to be seen on a demonstration or rioting in the street. They move undercover. I mean, I'm fairly sure we're all quite aware of that. And the really important ones have Boris Johnson's phone number in their mobile.
Well, there's a very good point. Apparently, I think it was David Lammy. I think, well, that's a point. I actually thought Marr had a decent, sorry to move it on, but it seems to be connected. I thought Marr had quite a good show this morning, because mostly I can't watch it. I get halfway through and the way an interview's working, I want to throw things at the telly, so I switch it off. But he had a good one. David Lammy had a very good interview, and even Marr himself said so. And I think it was what was he saying? No, I've lost it.
Well, the point of contention in that interview was that Labour are fence sitting, and Marr was trying to push for some sort of confrontation between Labour and
That's
government.
true. Sorry, but what Lammy pointed out was that for the first time, possibly ever, Boris Johnson's Twitter account produced 8 tweets in a day, all about defending Churchill's statue and nothing about Black Lives Matter.
Well, that's his pet project, isn't it? Did he not write a biography of Churchill, Boris Johnson?
Aye.
It'll be full of lies, like everything else he writes. Have you noticed that his article about watermelon smiles and pickaninnies has been reposted today?
Well, somebody was pointing out again on Twitter, so usual caveats, that the last time he made, because the point was that these comments were all made many years ago, and he's moved on, and he's apologized and all the rest of it. But the last time he made these sort of comments was 2 years ago, in 2018.
It's not like his past has been left behind. We know he very much is. He's of the elite and for the elite, and of the elite by its very nature makes you right wing.
Well, I'm not sure I totally agree with that. There are elites with different politics. There are right-wing elites who are really just money-grubbing bastards.
So, well, if you're going to come around to my point of view, where there are elites and elites, and there are different gangs amongst the elites.
There are. But I thought mine was quite good today. I thought Richie Sunak let the cat out the bag with his comment about, oh yeah, we're going to sit down with the scientists. We're going to be driven by the science, but we're going to have economists at that meeting. So this is the gradual opening of the door to the economy being more important than health.
Yeah, well, wait a minute. Come on, you're sitting here mentioning economists. There's 2, if not 3, huge divisions in economics. There's Keynesian versus Hayek, or monetarists.
Sorry, we're talking about a Tory government here.
All right, we're talking to monetarists.
Yeah, we're talking.
Yeah, but Richie Sunak is handing out cash as though he was John Maynard Keynes.
Yeah, because they finally realised that if he didn't do that, we would have millions of dead instead of tens of thousands. And there would have been riots in the streets. That's the only reason that money became available.
Oh, he had no choice. That's what I would agree with.
Jimmy, the economy.
Well, I think it's interesting. The Sun done a poll where 67% of people don't think the economic impact will hit them. And I'd ask the question, where are they living? If we've had the kind of downturn that makes 1932, well, it's comparable with 1932. That led to what? 5-6 years of Great Depression and a war. So if we've had that kind of hit this quick, how they think that they're just going to go back to normal, I have no idea. We're going to be looking at 4 million unemployed. We're looking at sectors that can't open, and when they do open, they're not going to be profitable for months. So I actually wonder whether a lot of these restaurateurs and bar owners and that, I think they're just going to take the government money and then fold their business.
I think
maybe reopen on a smaller scale, or reopen, do a BA, or BA getting allowed to show the way here, sack all their employees and then re-employ the ones that they want.
I think you're probably right, Jimmy, but can I just, because I'm sure we'll carry on with this topic, can I just throw in something that I've just noticed this morning? The rich are getting richer on this pandemic. Apparently, Jim Radcliffe, who used to be described as Britain's richest man, but that's before he moved his address again, back to Monaco or something, Ineos man. Apparently his wealth has gone from 7.5 billion to 13.5 billion in the course of this pandemic.
I don't know who's been doing these figures, but I did notice Branson had gone from 2.7 billion to 3.4 billion. So
I don't mean to steer you away from that, Jimmy. Sorry, I just thought it was throwing that in.
I just think that, you know, I think that the last status on it was 30% of the UK public are not happy about coming out of lockdown. So there's 37% of people who aren't going shopping. They're not going to the pub.
Is this the division then? There's 2/3 of the country don't realise how bad it's going to be, and 1/3 realise how bad it's going to be, and they're not going to go out and spend any money, which means the 2/3 of the money that think it's going to be all right won't have jobs.
Aye, exactly. So, I mean, the government, it doesn't matter what colour of government either, it's going to have a huge problem with persuading the public to trust them when they do start opening up the economy. And
all of this is assuming one thing, which is an assumption that none of us are entitled to make, which is, will there or won't be a second wave?
Yeah.
Well, it appears that at least the Scottish government, or the devolved governments, Scotland and Wales certainly, have, that's a major part of their planning. It doesn't seem to be the case with the Tories. I mean, I think for the last 2-3 weeks, all the Tories have talked about is how to get the economy open. I don't think they've done anything about coronavirus at all. No, that's why we don't see figures for so much of the information that the Scottish government's happy to give out, but the Tories aren't, because they just want it forgotten about.
Aye, their handling of everything has been that poor that they need to concentrate on the economy because they've not done anything wrong on the economy. They copied the rest of the world and basically protected the economy. And that's kind of worked to an extent in that they've created a huge amount of liquidity. How they're spending it is another matter entirely, because, as we say, the rich are getting richer. We will see, I bet you next year we didn't see dividend payments for companies that are massively profitable. Instead, the shareholders have got some kind of resilience payment for sticking by. But it'll still be a massive amount of that government liquidity goes straight into the pockets of shareholders.
Well, it's another point today watching Richie Sunak. He was claiming, some of his facts were probably true, that because people were stuck at home, they weren't spending. And so that when they get unlocked, when the lockdown ends, everybody go out and spend a load of money. Well, that's an assumption you can't make. If you're one of the third that's worried about your future, you're not going to go out and spend a load of money, even if you have saved a lot of money in the last 2 months.
Well, you're going to make sure your rent's covered. You're going to make sure you can pay your heating for the winter, and you're going to make sure you can buy food, which is actually no different to now.
Mm-hmm. I didn't see a big uptick in spending. I'm assuming that they're going to just quietly drop their quarantine rules, given that they're under so much pressure, and given that I didn't quite understand why they brought them in anyway. I thought they were maybe trying to pressure other countries into creating travel bubbles or whatever with the UK, seeing that nobody wants to let us in, but that doesn't seem to be working. So,
well, they're going to have a huge problem because they've laid out their framework.
Mm. Oh, I mean, they bring it in, mate, but they did always say it would be under review, so I'm assuming that at some point they'll review it out of existence.
Aye. Well,
and then we can be pretty clear that Johnston leading the way on social distancing rules from the review from 2 metre to 1 metre. We can be pretty clear that that's going to advise 1 metre for I think it's July the 4th that they've to come back with. So it's pretty sure that early July they'll drop that down to 1 metre, the social distancing guide.
I'll have a wee wager they'll go halfway and they'll go for 1.5 metre. That's what it is in other places. There are some countries that's 1.5 metre.
Neither fish nor fowl.
Yes, but I'll have a wee wager on that.
Let's be honest. The countries where it is 1.5 metre, they have far better track records.
Well, you're talking about Germany and Australia.
Aye, far less death, far less cases. So community transmission is low. You know, if you're outside, outdoor community transmission is very low. The problem is outdoor community transmission when you've had maybe 100, oh God only knows how many cases I've had now, eh? Hundreds of thousands in this country compared to what, maybe 50, 60,000 in Germany. So their transmission rate's going to be much lower anyway, because far less people have ever fucking had it.
I can't see them going for the 1.5 metres.
No.
No, I mean, it's just I'd have a wee wager if the odds were good.
That's just going to piss everybody off. I think they'll go for the 1 metre, and I would bet good money on that. They'll go for the 1 metre because that's what their constituency wants.
Aye, business wants it for pubs and restaurants. As I say, I think a lot of pubs and restaurants, mate, I think a lot of them they'll follow beat, particularly if British Airways get away with sacking other staff and re-employing the members of staff that they want on shittier contracts. If British Airways get away with it, there'll be loads of companies do it, even small companies like restaurants and that. They'll just fold the business and reopen it up under a different name. Somebody's missus did a name or something.
You've got the position, now this is from my own experience, where what companies are doing now is contacting all their staff, finding out A, how many are still staff, because some of them will have moved on to other things. B, would you be prepared to have your hours cut so we can keep everybody on? And you can't live on 20 hours, so a lot of them will say no. So they go. So in some ways it'll be self-selecting, but they're definitely looking at it.
Well, look, what we're supposed to be getting immediately, in England, it's practically immediately. Beer gardens open. Is that this week? Pub beer gardens opening?
That might be the announcement that's coming today. Did I see something that said Boris was going to do a thing today?
I think he is doing it today, yeah.
Oh, well, that's what it'll be.
Well, if Boris is doing it, it'll be a good news one.
But you stop and think about it. My favourite pub when I go down south, the British Lion, it's called, in Devizes. It's got an enormous beer garden. It's got about a dozen, a bit more of those big outdoor tables with the benches all attached. And there's still room for five-a-side football. But what happens if you've got 50 people, or even possibly room for 100 people, easily socially distancing outside? What about the toilets? How do they work?
Oh, that's exactly what it is. It's not simply space. You have somebody standing at the toilet every time somebody goes in to use the loo, they go in with a spray and wipe it down. I don't know. What I do know is there are a lot more beer gardens in England than there are in Scotland, mate.
Well, that's to do with the weather, I think.
But I'm saying there's going to be a lot more pubs able to open if it's beer gardens. in England than we'll ever be able to open in Scotland.
Mm-hmm.
How many gardens in Edinburgh?
Well, I was going to call it the pigeon. The pigeon.
Three Sisters.
Yeah.
What's the one with the walled beer garden up at the university? The
Pear Tree.
Pear Tree. That's why I thought about a pigeon. You see.
None in Leith. Brewster's.
Nah. Brewster's was shut before the corona thing, mate.
I can't think of anywhere in Leith.
No,
there's going to be lots of places if that's the way she chooses to go. I mean, the impression I get off her is she wants this down below, and there's a number, 0.5.
Are we talking
0.3?
We talking Nicola Sturgeon?
Yeah.
All right. Okay. So I thought we were talking
the
UK.
R number below 5, 3, whatever.
Yeah, there's every indication coming out. But I didn't think that when Nicola Sturgeon makes her announcement on Thursday, mate, I think will go to phase 2. But I think what's his name? That wee Gordon Wallace, whatever his name is on the Brewer Show, he's probably got it right. They'll no let the pubs open yet. They'll maybe say that pubs can open in 2 weeks' time or something like that. It'll be a graduated phase 2 rather than straight to phase 2 because, as you say, the practicalities. I mean, just thinking of Leith, for example, we know pubs that can't possibly open. They're just too wee, and they've not got the outdoor space. So there's going to have to be some kind of extension of the furlough scheme for these businesses. And there's just no way to open a Carrier's Quarters or a Malton Hops. You just can't do it.
I don't think they're going to extend it. They're going to make it basically impossible for these kind of businesses, and they're just going to take the hit. So
they've just to go then. And the Scottish government will be complicit in that at that point if they can't find a way to help businesses like that. They're not
going to have the money.
They've asked for borrowing powers. It'll be interesting to see if they get them.
Well, there's Jackson Carlo today on Twitter slagging the Scottish government for not coming out of furlough in lockstep, but for not shutting down everything quicker.
Mm-hmm. Aye, that's
a Four Nations approach.
It's a nonsensical
approach. Proved to be wrong.
Aye, it's a nonsensical thing that he comes up with, but we know he's totally uncredible anyway. I mean, again, Jackson Carlo is desperately trying to play to his base, his support that are going to vote Tory. That's a problem with both Labour and Conservative in Scotland. They don't suggest policies for the good of the nation. They suggest policies that they think might get them a wee clap for their base and keep them in second or third place in Scotland.
But their base must be looking south of the border and going, wait a minute, we did this in lockstep, we locked down too late. Mm-hmm. That's the British government's fault, not the Scottish government's fault.
Yeah, but Scottish Tories seem to think their voters are that stupid that they don't apply what happens in England to Toryism. You know, they don't take a look at England and go, my God, Boris Johnson's making a pig's ear of things doing there. The Tory party basks in the glory of anything that they get right and completely ignores anything they get wrong. And they think that their supporters are exactly the same.
That'll be not a lot of sunshine to bask in. Anything got right.
Hence the reason they're trying to move on to the economy, and hence the reason they will play scatter cash. Now that they've decided that the Bank of England is going to be buying up UK sovereign debt and no asking for it to be paid back, they will be absolutely scatter cash for the next 2 or 3 years.
But the point Stuart made is really relevant there. They might be scattering the cash, but it's who ends up scooping it up. Because I do think if we have another 2008 scenario where the big boys get all the money and Jimmy Smith in the street gets knifed and ends up paying for it through his what will look like a small amount of tax, but it won't be because all the prices will be going up round about him with Brexit and this coronavirus. This will add to the food bills, etc. I think Stuart might actually get his greatest wish and be designing barricades.
Yeah, barricades. I was worried about a flashpoint where statues in flashpoint. I gather the statue of King Billy in Glasgow could be a bit of a flashpoint. We've got the 12th of July coming up.
Aye, but there's
a
no marching
statue of
season.
King Billy in Glasgow.
Aye. Right by the cathedral, mate. It becomes an issue once a year because people in Glasgow get annoyed at it. It's been ignored. The nationalist community, and by nationalist I mean the Irish nationalist community, are the ones that get most upset by it, the ones who still hanker after speaking Irish and being Irish. But the reality of it, mate, it's a statue of... It should have been gone a long time ago, but Glasgow's Glasgow, mate. Let's remember that...
I had no idea, Jimmy. I didn't know there was actually a statue of King Billy.
Sorry, there are more orange walks in Glasgow than there are in the whole of Northern Ireland.
I know this. Because
there's not a marching season this year, is there?
Trapped on the wrong side of the road by several.
Well, they cancelled it. There's the point. That might be part of the timing for Nicola Sturgeon. Oh, I better not unlock enough for them to have their marching season.
Oh no, I think they've already been told. I'm pretty sure they've already basically cancelled most of the marching season because they knew.
What about the enormous bonfires in Belfast? Is that
that's already cancelled and they've been taking them down in the last week or so.
They've been tractoring the pallets away.
It will be interesting long term to see just how much pressure we can apply as Scottish citizens to cancel in as much of marching season next year as we possibly can. Because I think the lodge is pretty much dying out anyway.
Do you know?
In terms of numbers now, they have to, if they're going to have a big march in Glasgow, they have to get hundreds of Orangemen, busloads of them come up for England and loads over for Ireland before they can get an impressive number anymore.
Well, do you know what? I was going to mention this for next week, actually. The lack of dissent between the parties in Northern Ireland.
Mm-hmm.
They seem to have come together really well and dealt well with this pandemic, I have to say. I think they're the best of all the home nations.
Yeah, the numbers are excellent, mate. And it's noticeable that when they put aside all the stuff that they love to argue about, and fair play, by the way, to Sinn Féin in particular, because working with Arlene Foster, given just how corrupt they accused her of being, can't be easy. But they've set all that aside and they've worked, as you say, remarkably well. And in the interests of the people, they've done a great job. If only they could keep that up.
I noticed there was no big headlines about falling outs or anything.
Yeah, I think there's a kind of reality has come in when you think about it. It is an island. Great Britain's an island, and when it comes to they've got experience with viruses. What was that one for the beef?
Foot and mouth.
Foot and mouth. You know, they've got experience with that, but they have to deal with it on an all-Ireland basis. They deal with experience. There's no other way to deal with a virus. And
they're both kind of on the same side for Brexit in a way. Not totally, obviously.
But you think about it also.
See if that carries through.
Yeah, but the Irish government have obviously made all their own decisions. They've barely thought about it. They've barely taken the North into consideration. And so the North has had very little choice but to sort of mirror what they're doing in the South.
Well, the reality is, why should the Irish Republic take the North into consideration? As an independent, separate nation, the Irish government made decisions based on the health and well-being of the Irish population.
Jimmy, you've not been listening to the Unions. The south of Ireland really wants to be part of Britain again.
Oh, yeah. Who told you that?
That's just how bright and intelligent unionist politicians are. There's actually people who are, that's the frightening thing though, Norrie, there are people who are employed professionally as politicians. It's their job and they're getting paid for it, who think like that. And that's quite frightening in this day and age.
There's at least one of them thinks because he's British, he's entitled to an Irish passport.
Well, if you think about it, the Irish GDP is about 20% higher than the UK GDP. Now you could say, oh, but you got to pay for your hospital and the doctor and all the rest of it. But the point is, the people that have got the money are doing very well. In other words, the people that would have voted Tory in this country, and we'll be quite happy to see the NHS privatised, they're doing very well in Ireland.
Well, it'll be interesting to see. I mean, we've got Brexit looming over everything as well. And Brexit is going to hamstring the UK economy, as far as I see it. That boy for the World Trade Organization that was on Mar this morning, he kind of laid it out that the UK economy, particular sectors of it, are going to need some kind of deal, or they're just going to get absolutely slaughtered. You know, the things that, if we get no deal, then the sectors that are going to get hammered is going to be car manufacture. And we know that because straight away Sunderland's going to shut. Agriculture. These things attract huge tariffs and will be overnight absolutely uneconomical to make cars or grow food in the UK if you want to sell it to the European Union.
I think, well, I think it's too late to do anything on the Brexit front.
Well, he kind of suggested that they may cobble together some kind of deal so that it gives them a limited period where they can, it's the soft touch on imports, for example, the zero tariffs on things like cars and agriculture. If they can find some way to cobble something together, then you might have a implementation period of a year or so where those industries have got a chance to try and restructure themselves. But if not, they're gone. They're gone almost overnight because the market's gone.
I was going to say, Jimmy, these businesses, agriculture, you don't turn a farm round in a year or two. It takes,
I know, mate.
years. You don't turn down a car factory. They plan 5-10 years ahead.
Particularly for farms, mate. They're goosed anyway because they've only got a guarantee of subsidy. They've only got the UK government guaranteeing subsidies up till maybe 2022, is it? So at that point,
yeah, and everything else they've told them has turned out to be a lie. Why would the subsidy not turn out to be a lie?
Well, that's the other thing, though. Are they going to use this economic crisis that's come about through COVID to renege on that one? Because that one's massive. If there's no subsidies, there's no farming in Britain. Are we going to accept that Britain becomes a consumer of things that for centuries, for generations, we've done for ourselves? Our own beef, our own lamb, our own cereal crops. Are we just going to accept it? We're just going to buy all that crap in for America?
Well, that was the situation. It came in from the empire at the beginning of World War II, which is one of the serious problems this country faced at the start of World War II. And by the time, of course, World War II was over, everything had been, golf courses had been ploughed, everything had been changed, and we had a huge farming subsidy system, well before we went into the common market, as it was called then.
Well, I just think that these guys in charge at Westminster have got just the hots totally to become the 51st state of America. And that's what they want. And if that best way to get that is a no deal, you can go to hell in a bucket for them. That's what they want to be. They want to be tied to America. I don't really understand where they think the advantage in that will be, because you think the Americans won't dictate to us like they claim
all those
Europe dictates to us.
All those politicians that are on the make, they'll do very well.
I don't know. There's something I'm not seeing there. I do not understand why they think it's such a good thing.
And let's be clear, mate, it's something that these right-wing clowns defending Britishness yesterday in Whitehall, they wouldn't take kindly to that either, but none of them see it. They're icons like Nigel Farage pushing all kinds of nonsense down their throats. They love it.
I see he got tossed off LBC, Farage.
Yeah, but seconds later he was on talk radio.
Oh, God.
Aye, but talk radio's even, I mean, come on, at least the LBC's got some credibility. Talk radio has none. You listen to talk radio, you're a mug, as far as I'm concerned. And they can tell you what you want because mugs will just believe anything.
Anything else anybody would like to bring up?
I should recommend people, which is back to really Scottish. I'm not going to go with this in detail, but there was a very interesting article by Ben Ray, argues the Scottish National Party leadership's relationship to the British state means it is not pursuing independence as a real objective. It's quite a long piece. I can recommend people to look that up and have a read of that.
Aye, I read it. I can recommend people not to bother. It's just another piece of left-wing bullshit trying to basically say that the left should run Scotland even though they had their chance and made a James Hunt of it. But we should give them another chance because the SNP aren't radical enough.
Well, I'm sorry.
That basically summed up everything I've ever read from Ben Ray.
You've what?
Everything I've ever read by him. He's Rice, SSP.
Oh, I know, but
I mean,
at least
political.
He does point out that the Scottish government are now been in power for 13 years. They've become embedded as part of the elite, and that's uncontestable.
It is contestable. Of course it's contestable. They run a far better, more efficient part of the UK than any of the other three. The NHS in Scotland is far better funded. Do the left wing not want to give them credit for that? The NHS in Scotland is far better organised. You can, if you want to buy into this nonsense that Scottish schools are shite, then that's a Rice supporter cuddling Tory ideas.
Jimmy, that's not my point at all. We could have a good barney about this. There's practically no government of any kind, even if it's just a state government or a devolved government, that if it's been in power this long, doesn't become embedded as part of the system.
Aye,
and
but
there is no left-wing commentator.
What would you suggest, Stuart? What would you suggest? Chucking the SNP out because they're embedded, and letting the Tories run things? Because that's would win an election if suddenly the SNP were unpopular. The Tories would win.
That's not well. I think we need.
But Ben Ray is as much an elitist as anybody in the Scottish government. His elite is just a different one. It's a left-wing PC bunch of people that couldn't govern us. Commentator, that's all he is. I mean, I'm sorry. It's the usual problem with the left. They want it all, but they'll never tell us how to pay for it.
I'm not supporting the left-wing aspects of the article. I'm simply saying he did point out things that are generally widely accepted by any political...
No, genuinely widely accepted by you.
By political scientists.
Political science is a load of shite. Come on.
I like it from you guys.
Well, Stuart, what Norrie just said is right. That article talked to you because it's how you think. You're constantly going on about the SNP being comfortable in power and no reaching and no wanting to do this and no wanting to do that. And that's why that article spoke to you, because it's basically what you've been saying for the last year.
All right, so you don't believe that?
I believe there's problems with the SNP's approach, but I didn't see anybody out there that's got any chance whatsoever of governing this country better or bringing independence. Okay, there's nobody out there apart from them that can deliver that.
Well, that's positive, but perhaps Peter Ray Bell's little article this morning might have some sway in that matter, because he's right. The next time we get out in the streets marching, instead of having signs to bring down the Tories, the signs should be saying, well, let's get the SNP to change their policy on independence, because they're dragging their feet.
Stuart, you and I have been on enough marches to know that the signs against the Tories could be counted on one hand. So that's just not what you see on a march.
Wait a minute. What do the people shout? You hardly get people to shout anything unless it's Tory, 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 out, out, out.
No. They shout, what do we want independence? When do we want it now? People are going to shout Tory, Tory, Tory. They'll shout it, mate. But People still shout Maggie, Maggie, Maggie out, for Christ's sake. She's been dead for 10 years.
It's a bit like the Tories picking on care homes or you didn't lock down quick enough. The SNP will never be left enough for the Ben Rays of this world. It's that simple. And for yourself,
I think
as long as the SNP are in government, there will be a conspiracy to chase. They will be elitists. They'll be the next best thing to Tories, because that's the way your head works.
All right, well, I'll just give you one example. They've appointed an advisory group to advise on the recovery of the Scottish economy after this pandemic. Guess who they've appointed to head it? The chief executive of Buccleuch Estates, the most reviled property-owning business in Scotland.
And
that's the most reviled property-owning business in Scotland. That's the most reviled property-owning business in Scotland in your mind, Stuart. I would argue that Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth is the most reviled property-owning business in Scotland, but you missed out on that one.
Okay.
So what they should have done was employ Ben Ray.
No, to be honest, mate, given the Growth Commission, anybody that they appoint to say anything is going to get slated long before they come forward with any ideas. So they'd have been as well just doing it on secret.
I love this kind of idea that because the guy is a rancid capitalist who has successfully screwed money out of the working class, that disqualifies him from recreating an economy that will successfully screw money out of the working class. The guy is there because of his qualification as a rancid capitalist.
Mm-hmm.
Who would you employ?
Well, that's the thing, mate. The left wouldn't employ anybody to work out a way to get an economy started. They'd appoint a committee.
I love the way you two are ganging up on the left. I didn't realise that Norrie had abandoned the Communist Party.
In 2032, after they'd argued about who should be chair, the leftists might just have constituted a panel to look into it.
Stuart, left and right politics have had their day, mate. Yous have had a bloody century and a half to sort things out and still can't do it. The reality is, it's real politics from now on. And
absolutely. I must admit, I've not seen a useful idea coming out of any of the left commentators in the last few months at all. In fact, it occurred to me the other day that I barely read anything on Bella Caledonia anymore because it just never seems relevant.
No, Bella Caledonia is more about name calling and stuff like that these days, mate. Particularly on Twitter, I noticed that they had to publish a picture. Probably the only one that they could find is somebody down in London yesterday wearing a Rangers jumper and asking people to draw their own conclusions. The conclusion I draw is that whoever's running Bella's Twitter account is a Celtic supporter and searched desperately for that picture.
I mean, Bella still does some good stuff, but it's
seldom
left-wing green politics now, more than independence.
Anyway, on that cheery note, shall we foxtrot Oscar and go and live a life for a couple of hours and then get all back to it tomorrow?
I think, are you worried I jumped through that screen and nut Stuart or something?
If you could, the way you were making your head disappear and reappear at will on Friday, I kind of am, mate.
I'm just going to set my coronavirus on him. And that is a good point, Stuart. I'm definitely getting older with my criticism of the left.
Oh, here, I tell you what, normally we wind up with an unusual item that might have come out for the private eye. Apparently, we've heard today that the Boris government are about to abandon any changes to the GRA.
Yeah. Aye, that looks like taking one look at just how much a cesspit of nastiness it is and thinking, hold it, we only get into cesspits and nastiness when there's profit in it.
There's a catch in it, though.
Yes, man. I like the way he sums it up. We only get in a mess if there's money in it.
There's a catch in it. I can't remember what it is. I'll look it up for tomorrow. But as I say, guys, triple AF, ya bass.
Yeah.
Anti-anti-fascists.
Yeah, yeah.
That's me.
Up against the wall, a lot of you.
Right. Thanks for listening, folks. We'll catch up with you tomorrow about 1:30. Thanks, Stuart. Thanks, Jimmy. And I'm Norrie Stewart. Cheers for now, guys.
Cheerio.